All right, joining me now is the person who conducted that focus group, the very well-respected pollster and communication strategist, Frank Luntz. Frank, I'm so grateful to have you. I maybe shouldn't admit this publicly, but I was once in some of your focus groups as a student at George Washington University. So I have been a long-time admirer of yours, and I'm very grateful to have you here. And I know this enthusiasm is something that you have really focused in on as kind of the central change to the race that we have seen here. What did you learn from these voters in this particular group, and what else should we be watching here?
Well, first I need to apologize, because if you were in my focus groups as a student at GW, I must have been in my yelling phase. I really wanted voters to tell me the truth, to speak up and speak out. Now I figured out how to do it in a much more quiet and respectful fashion.
You never scared me. It was all good.
Oh, even if I didn't scare you, I'm sure I was improper. And please accept my apologies. The three things that matter most, and that intensity is number one, because that means that you'll get your polling numbers. It's one thing to support a candidate. It's another thing to take the time and go out and vote for that candidate. After the Republican convention, Donald Trump was going to convert every supporter into a voter, and it was very questionable whether Joe Biden would be able to do the same. Now, with Harris on the top of the ticket, she is converting more supporters into actual voters than even Trump. That's significant. Second is that the voter pool has changed. Younger women who were opting out because they did not want to vote for someone 80 years old are now absolutely excited and energized about this. You heard that in the focus group, and they can't wait to participate. And that's going to have an impact not just on the presidential race, but on Senate and House races as well, as more traditional Democrats come to the poll. And third, they really want to know where Harris stands. This is the one place where she may still be weak. On issues like inflation and immigration, Donald Trump still has the advantage. If he ran an issue-based campaign, he can win. If they run an attribute-based campaign, she wins. It seems strange that Trump is only talking about attributes and not focused on the issues, which is why she's going to make her economic speech today.
Yeah, Frank, we saw that event from Trump yesterday where his campaign was clearly setting him up to do exactly what you're talking about, right? He was next to groceries that have clearly risen in cost, but instead he was saying things like, I'm entitled to attack Kamala Harris. How do you think, and in your experience, how have voters reacted to moments like that from Trump?
Expect it, but it doesn't mean that they appreciate it and they're going to vote for it. They've known Donald Trump since 2015. They have not known Vice President Harris. She can be defined, which is what Trump is trying to do. The problem is, whereas the campaign is focused on substance and where she's changed her point of view, Trump is focused on insults. If I were advising him, which I'm not, I would look him straight in the eye and say, sir, you need to shut up. You need to stop behaving like a petulant child and start focusing on what the American people want in a way that they want to hear it. Look, if I yell at you every time you have me on, you'll stop having me on and you'll stop listening. Trump doesn't understand that. People have to tell him the truth, because at this point, she's got her convention bounce before the convention, and I think Harris could have a 5 or 6 point lead coming out of that convention if Donald Trump continues to behave the way that he has.
Frank, do you think there's anything that could take Kamala Harris down kind of off of this high? Because, I mean, my experience covering campaigns, every campaign has tough moments, right? They all do. It's inevitable. And the question is, how do you handle them when they come? This is a campaign that's have to pull together really quickly. They're not necessarily, they haven't faced something like that before. But that said, it is such a compressed time period. I mean, do you see it coming back down to earth? And if so, how?
Well, it's going to be in the debate September 10th. It's going to be the debate heard around the world. Look, the issue right now is Donald Trump reminds women of their first husband, of their first husband's divorce lawyer. He's got a problem in how he attacks and how he presents himself. And I assume that his campaign is telling him this. For her, she's got to show that she's got the answers, that she has the solutions, and she's not extreme. This is the one thing that I hear in my focus groups, a real concern that her politics, she's from California, she did not even make it to the very first caucus. She participated in the debates and did not do well. So voters are asking themselves, what's behind the aura? What's behind the persona? They like the persona, they don't know the details, and the next 80 days, that's exactly what you'll have to provide. Are they centrist? Are they mainstream? Or are they extreme? That's your challenge.
Yeah, really interesting. Frank, before I let you go, I also want to ask you about, speaking of how voters perceive extreme situations or views or not, you asked these voters about JD Vance, who has had something of a rocky rollout in the wake of his selection at the Republican National Convention. I want to play a little bit of what some of these voters had to say to you and ask you about it on the other side. Take a look.
When he chose JD Vance, it kind of pushed me over to having an open mind.
I switched because JD Vance scares the heck out of me, and that Joe was just a little bit too old.
Did JD Vance, the selection of JD Vance hurt Trump's nomination?
No one knew at the time the things that he had said in the past. And he is a mini Donald Trump, prepared to say anything and everything to get an emotional reaction. His debate is on October 1st, and the challenge for him versus Governor Walz is going to be a good old boy, even though he's a North Midwesterner. And Vance is going to have to find some way to differentiate himself without being negative. I really want to emphasize, I know this interview is coming to an end, that the public is frustrated and angry about the personal attacks and wants a different approach going forward. Just because it worked in 2016 does not mean it will work in 2020.
Yeah, really very interesting perspective. Frank, I'm so grateful to have you. I do hope that you'll come back and join us again soon.